You're live.
We're live. Welcome everybody to the Finance and Governance Committee meeting. We have a full contingent of committee plus Alderman Briscoe. It looks like that's the extra for today, and the Lord Mayor. Thank you all for coming. So we don't need to co-opt anybody. The confirmation of minutes. Someone like to move that, please? Alderman Thomas. Anyone against the minutes? Okay, no one against the minutes. I clarify that's confirmed. Indication of pecuniary or conflict of interests. Anyone want to put their hands up anywhere? No conflicts of interest. So we go to transfer of agenda items. Any transfer of agenda items?
Chairman, I'm basically at your committee. I'd love to stay at your committee for all the items, but I can't. I wonder if we could, someone could transfer questions without notice. I've only got a question without notice, and I won't be available for the rest of the meeting. If that's possible, someone just move the question. Item 8.
Has the committee at all?
Happy to move that, Chairman.
Moved by Alderman Sexton. Do we have a? We don't need a seconder. I'll put that. Anyone against that? There'll be no one against that, so we will start with questions on notice first. That's the transfer of the agenda. So Alderman Briscoe, we're going to questions on notice.
Okay,
without notice. Sorry, without notice.
Without notice. I will email this to Belinda's the committee clerk. I will email it to her in a moment. So I imagine the following question will be taken on notice. Due to some feedback and some confusion that may have the potential to derail funding projects in the community, and from some politicians to me who are unsure what the priorities of the city in seeking major grant funds for infrastructure projects, particularly in the COVID era, where the state and federal government are providing funds for the stimulation of the economy. This is the question. It's in two parts. What are the current Hobart City Council projects seeking grant funds and their order of priority? And if there is an order of priority, who decided the priorities? And the second part of the question is, and is there a coordinated effort by the elected leadership and the executive team to push the same projects? And particularly concerned was the aquatic centre. So I submit that question. Our director will take it on notice, presumably.
General Manager?
Yeah, Chairman, we will take it on notice. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just email it to Belinda in a moment. Thank you very much and have a good meeting.
Thank you, Alderman Briscoe. Is there any other questions? Councillor Coates.
That was me waving goodbye. I assumed.
Oh, right. Okay. I thought you were waving at me.
If I need a hand, I'll use the one on Zoom.
Okay. So there's no other questions. Being no other questions, we will now get into the body of the agenda, which is the annual report, the final end of the period. Just a question. I'll ask the General Manager. Would you like to add anything to this, General Manager?
No, thank you, Chairman. It's self-explanatory, but we are happy to take any questions, obviously.
Okay. Deputy Lord Mayor, you've got the floor.
I'm just moving it. No questions at this stage.
No, moving it. Any other discussion or debate? Being no other discussion or debate, I'll put the item. Who's against? No one against. The item is carried. So we go to the next item, which is the Customer Service Charter, 6.2.
I'll move the report be received and noted, Chairman.
Moved by Alderman Sexton to be received and noted. Be any other discussion? Councillor Burnett. Oh, sorry, Deputy Lord Mayor.
Thanks, Chairman. Through you to the Deputy General Manager, just I'm curious to know what sort of changes there might have been to this process.
Through you, Chairman, I can possibly take that question.
Ms Johns?
What we've done with the endorsement of ELT, Chairman, is introduced a greater oversight and capture of complaints and compliments. And within ELT's endorsement, the Principal Advisor, Customer Services, is actually responsible for maintaining that database. And she takes an active role in following through on complaints, following up on responses, and we've also undertaken quite a significant awareness campaign through the organisation.
Thank you. And is it in line with other jurisdictions? I mean, is this like a template that happens in other councils, or one that's come from the floor of council?
Through you, Chairman, the approach that we're taking at the moment is that we are capturing as much detail as we possibly can, which probably goes above and beyond what most councils would be doing. But we're doing that on the basis of anticipating our new customer request management system. So we're taking the opportunity while we're waiting for that to come on board to actually collect as much data as we can, so that when we have the system in place, we can make sure that it's structured and it's used to its best capacity.
Thanks. I look forward to hearing more about that, actually. Thank you.
Alderman Thomas?
Yes, and I'll move the recommendation, Chair. Could it be received and noted?
I think it's already moved by Alderman Sexton. Put your hand down. Alderman Thomas, thanks. Any other discussion? No other discussion? I'll put the item. Anyone against? Being no one against, the item is carried. The next item is the 6.3, which is Council Policy Manual Review. Who would like to move that for discussion?
Maybe, Chairman, just before the item is moved for discussion, I just want to point out, we sent out a memo. It was yesterday, Chairman, just pointing out that one of the policies releases to non-profits. We've asked to be deleted from your considerations today. We've just got some more information and research we want to do on that policy. So, Chairman, if it is moved, could it please be moved in the absence of that policy?
That's a different item, is it not? We're up to procurement quotation exemption report 6.4.
We're up to 6.3.
No, we're up to 6.3.
Oh, sorry, my mistake. All right. Well, there are a few things that I wanted to have a look at. So,
right. Is someone going to move it in accordance to what the General Manager?
Yeah, I'm happy to move it without the final item there, which is the not-for-profit. But I've got a few questions about.
Okay. Well, you got the floor, Alderman Sexton.
Yeah. So the private works charges policy. I have a concern about the recommended change that that the General Manager or his delegate be authorised to negotiate a charge on commercial terms or waive/reduce a charge on charitable or hardship grounds with any subsequent benefit to be acknowledged in the Council's annual report. My concern here is this is our Council undertaking private works. So what that suggests is that somebody could come to Council, request that Council undertake private works for them, and then request that they don't pay. Now, whilst that may be perfectly reasonable, I think that process where a request for Council to undertake private works for free should be absolutely crystal clear to everybody. It should be as transparent as anything, and I don't think it should be delegated to anybody other than Council. So I would, my amendment would be to remove that new proposed paragraph and replace it with any request for waiving or reducing a charge for private works will be referred to Council for decision.
General Manager.
Chairman, I don't really have a problem with that. I don't think we're inundated with private work requests anyway, so I don't think it's going to be a massive administrative burden to refer it to Council. So in the interest of transparency and good governance, I think that suggestion would be something that we'd support.
Okay, well, Alderman Sexton, considering you've actually moved the motion with the first deletion that you just added as part of the motion, because that's what you moved. If anyone has got any issues with what has been moved, there's no hands up. So being no hands up, I will ask if anyone is against the motion.
No, just hang on. I've got another one.
Sorry.
Just another
Oh, sorry, Alderman Sexton.
Another question. Council borrowing policy. In the council borrowing policy part 4, it says borrowings are not a form of revenue and do not replace the need for council to generate sufficient operating revenue to service its operating requirements. I'm just wondering whether, with the current COVID-19 situation, whether or not we are complying with that borrowing guideline, or whether we are needing to vary it.
General Manager. Oh, actually, a Deputy General Manager, sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. There would still be capital budget well in excess of our borrowings at this point in time.
Right, so dot point 1, where it says borrowings are not a form of revenue and do not replace the need for council to generate sufficient operating revenue to service its operating requirements, we're in compliance with that. So we don't need to borrow money in order to provide sufficient revenue to service our operating requirements. Is that correct?
Yeah, through you, Chairman. Yes, that's correct. I guess it's always a question of what do you spend which dollar on. But we have a capital budget at the moment at around about the 34 million. So that is not operating. And our borrowings for this year were only 15 million. So, arguably, we're borrowing only for a proportion of our capital.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that we didn't need to amend the policy temporarily. If we don't, then that's fine. That's all from me, Chairman.
Okay, there is no one else with hands up, so it doesn't look like anybody has got any concerns. Anyone's got anything? I'm going to put the motion. Anyone against the motion as it stands? There being no one against the motion as it stands, it's carried. The next item for discussion is 6.4, quotation for procurement. Is anyone going to move? Well, if no one moves it, it's going to be okay. Alderman Sexton's just moved the item. Any discussion?
So, Chairman, through you to the General Manager, so effectively there's not much change in this. I mean, there's reasons why we might want to go for external tenders or external contractors.
I'm sorry, Chairman, I'm not quite sure what the question is. This is just really for noting. This is exemptions for our requirement to get 3 quotes for the 6-month period starting on the 1st of January. So this is really just for noting, Chairman, and the reasons as to why we haven't procured 3 quotations in accordance with the policy are noted in the columns.
Yeah, no, sorry, misread it. Thought it was from a recent council meeting. Thank you.
Okay, so there's moved by Alderman Sexton. There's no one against. Being no one against, the item is carried. And now we go to 6.5, outstanding long-term parking. Open for discussion. Again, Alderman Sexton, is that you moving it, or is that from the hand from the before?
Just me moving it.
Okay. Be any other discussion?
Yes, Chairman, just a question, if I may.
You may.
Yep, thank you. So I note that there's increased numbers, relatively speaking, of 90 days. Is that a sign of the current crisis, COVID related, or what's the explanation in relation to those?
Chairman, I don't know whether Mr. Carr has got any comments on that, but that's an increase of $4,000, so it's not a very significant increase. And both the shorter term, the 30 days, and the total debts are both down. So I don't necessarily think there's any particular message to read into that. But as I said, Mr. Carr might have a different view.
Mr. Carr. Mr. Carr, speak into the microphone, please.
Can you hear me okay?
A little bit further.
Hello?
That's better.
Okay, sorry. Nothing much more to add. The only thing I would add is that we haven't seen any increase in a request for withdrawal of infringements, and all that seems to be progressing as normal.
Okay, does that answer your question, Deputy Lord Mayor? Okay, any further debate? No further debate, no further discussion. Is there anyone against the item? Be no one against the item is carried. And we go to professional development, the Deputy Lord Mayor. Someone want to move?
Move this.
Moved by the Deputy Lord Mayor, okay. So any discussion? Being no discussion, anyone against the item? Being no one against the item's carried. Okay, just 7.1 is the committee action status report. Does anyone have any questions on that? No questions. Does someone want to move it, please? Alderman Sexton. Anyone got any concerns? No concerns. Anyone voting against? No one voting against. The item's carried. We've gone with questions without notice, and that's the end of our. We need a motion now for someone to go into close. Can someone move? Alderman Thomas. Anyone against that? No one against that. Thanks very much. And that's the end of the open meeting. Thank you.